Hello, I'm Redemptor Asifu, and I'm going to talk about credibility and validity of news sources, where I'll be comparing three news stories from different sources. The first story is entitled "Vicious Assault Shakes Texas Town," and it's from the New York Times, written on March 8, 2011. So this story, as I read it, it seems that the writer of this story is independent since he tells the story as he heard it or got from other sources. Here he tells of a girl who was raped by a gang of boys, and then how the policemen tried to follow up with the case. So, in giving different evidences about this story, it seems like the information is from multiple sources, and this means some other magazines, because there's another magazine that talked about this story, and the author of this very story from the New York Times cited that resource, and also there's where the author says that a police talked about how they followed up with the case of this assault, and some villagers talked about the story, saying that they were afraid of some similar incidents that could happen in the future. And there are some other sources of the story, I mean the sources of different evidences that were not named. So the reporter of this story verifies the story. He doesn't just assert, because he says there were some evidences like videotapes containing the records of that crime, and the reporter is informed. He's not uninformed, because he says different points from different people, and this shows that he really knows what happened in that story. Uh, Different sources of information were named and others were not named, as I just mentioned before. So, in my opinion, this story is credible, since we know the writer and the magazine he wrote in the story, and the publisher, and the date when it was published. Also, there are multiple sources of the story, and that means the story is not likely to be biased, since it is from different sources. I mean, different people talked about it, and those were used as evidences. And also, just left wondering uh, what happened after that case. I mean, what were the next steps in the town to keep girls safe, since one girl was assaulted sexually? Because this point is the only one that was not covered in the story. So, besides that, this article really qualifies as news, because it tells of what happened and when it happened and where it took place, and different people that were involved in the story. There's another story of Apple Press Info, and it says Apple announces iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus, the biggest advancements in iPhone history. It was published on September 9th, 2014. The writer of the story seems to be involved in the story and has some interest for the producer of the story, because it's in terms of public relation, or it's telling more about uh, something that this Apple company has done, and it only includes information from one source, and that is from the Apple company. And so the story could be verified because there is real evidence proving that the story is true, because there are so many descriptions of this iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus, and this means that the writer or the reporter knows exactly what he is reporting about. So from this, I can tell that he is informed, and it's seen in the way he describes everything about the iPhone. So if anybody reads the story, he would not say that the author is uninformed, because it's clear that he knows what he is reporting about. And the source of information is only one, and it's named, and that's the Apple company. So the story is really credible, since it's from the company, I mean the owner and producer of the iPhone that is being launched. So from the story, I don't have any hanging questions, and it's clear that no one else would have any left wonderings, because all the information is provided in the story. It's that the iPhone being launched is clear, and the purpose of the launch is really clear. So the article qualifies as news since it's talking about a company's achievement. However, it seems to be more of public relations for that company and not just telling a certain story as we hear from different news, such as about politics or sports or celebrities or anything else. The third story is called Probe of Virginia Rocket Blast Begins, Space Station Supplied. It's from Chicago Tribune and it was published on October 29th, 2014. The writer of the story seems to be independent and he does not have any interest in the story. And this is seen from what is included in the story. He's just reporting everything as it took place and as got from different sources. So there are multiple sources, and they are all named. And these are people and authorities or officials who talk about uh, this thing of the rocket blast. The story is also verified because it includes different evidences and testimonies of what happened from multiple sources, of course, and those sources are named as I mentioned. So this story is, I found it to be credible because it's clear when it was published who wrote it, and it has different evidences of what's happening in that story. So, so there was a rocket blast. In the questions I just have are about what will happen in case a similar case in the story happens. I mean, when there's another blast, what's going to happen? Because this is the only point that was not covered in the story. But apart from that, the article qualifies as news because it includes what happened, what caused it, and what different people talk about it, and it's clear that it's a news story. So about all the three stories I just talked about, so they qualify as news. Thank you for your attention.